if we're live yet, guys. So hold on. Let's. All right, I think we're live, guys. So everybody, welcome to Paranormal Pulse on YouTube, and I have Carrie, and we have a special guest with Dave today, and that's Bob.
Hi.
There's rumors that Dave and Bob are related, but we're not 100% sure. But there is rumors. And so, Carrie, how are you doing today? I know you're a little rough. I'm rough.
I'm rough.
Yeah, we had a pretty interesting investigation. Whoa. Sorry, we're hearing Carrie's papers go. But yeah, we had a quite interesting investigation. And then live from Scotland, we have Dave and Bob. And Dave, you're going to kind of run this show today. So what we thought we'd do first is just talk a little bit about what Dave and Pulse in Scotland have been doing, and far as investigating and locations. And then me and Carrie, we're going to talk about ours for a few minutes last night because it was quite fascinating. And then Dave's going to run it. He has a few things that he wants to talk about. So on that note,
well, actually, yeah. What I'll do, Cordell, is I'll just get straight into it.
Okay, go for it.
It's and I think what I wanted to do is there's a lot of videos out there, where get straight into it. But I'm looking more at the foundational aspects and the history. Kind of really, I wanted the audience to know more about Paranormal Pulse. Kind of how it originated, who we are. What do we do? What does our kind of our charter say? And what sets us off, if so, from different groups. But I think the first question would be and this is for Cordell and Carrie, who's director and deputy director of Pulse, is do you want to tell us who do you want to tell the audience who Pulse are?
Yeah, me and Carrie can talk about that. And Carrie, I did see your host chat. But Pulse, we formed in 2009. Me and Carrie and another person, Lance, were in a different group, and things were going south, like sometimes they do. Like how the Beatles went south. Yeah, we kind of went south in this other group. Bands and paranormal groups always break up, right? And anyway, so we formed our own group, Pulse, Paranormal Pulse, and so 2009, and we've been. Oh, hey, pussycats! Hi,
hey,
everyone. Real quick for everybody that's new to watching this, I try to post all the chats in the video so that they're permanently with the video. If I don't, and the video gets lost, guys, the chats get lost also. And if I miss your chat, I do apologize. Anyway, so we started 2009, been going strong ever since. And currently, guys, we've had the idea of expanding and have different Pulse groups throughout, not just the United States, but the world, and i.e. Pulse in Scotland. Dave is the director, and I'll let Dave speak for that. But right now, currently, we have about 20 members between Scotland and the U.S., and we investigate. God, guys, Carrie, how many investigations do you think we've done in those since 2009? Wait a minute, I'm going to unmute Carrie. Carrie, how many investigations do you think we've done?
I have no clue.
Thousands.
Probably over 1,000. I don't know.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, Dave, do you want to talk about your perspective of Pulse?
Yeah, it's in terms of the US Pulse, and we'll obviously get there in a minute. I think I joined Pulse back in 2011 when I came across to the across to Utah.
I'm just going. How many years?
And
I'm just going. Just ignore.
I think
10 years.
from a UK perspective, we were involved in a different group. Obviously, prior, we were involved in something called the Ghost Club of London. Joan, one of the audience, Joan is in it. Mark, her husband, was also in it. I'm not sure, Bob. I'm not sure if you were in it. The Ghost Club.
No, I was,
and that kind
I
of
was way above your league then.
okay, and that kind of got us kind of to some of the kind of Scottish National Trust areas, some of the kind of the homes, stately homes, museums, some of the places which the public probably couldn't get access to. So it just seemed logical from kind of doing this from an early age, involved with the SPR in Cambridge, involved with the Northumbrian group. It just seemed logical that coming to the States, we'd search for another group, and luckily I kind of found yourselves. So in terms of like kind of Pulse UK, we kind of got hampered by COVID and lockdown. Came back into the country to 2019 and retouched base with the likes of Joe and Mark, Craig, Kate, like people who were we were investigating prior, and it just seemed logical to kind of kick this kind of this group off back in the UK. However, we did an investigation. I think it was November 2019 at the castle, and then, well, you know what happened, kind of into the new year. We were looking at other investigations, and yeah, COVID kind of did hamper a lot of our kind of progress as a group. I mean, in terms of Pulse US, so where do you guys think kind of you guys are at?
So I'm gonna let Carrie jump in here. So where we're at in the US, I mean, the idea of Pulse was data collection and try to actually analyze and try to figure out how the fundamentals of the paranormal work, and that includes how EVPs are generated and all those big questions. But but the main focus has been data collection and analysis. And I'd like Carrie to just say a few words about, because Carrie's the one that's really critical to Pulse, and everything Pulse is, it really falls in Carrie's lap, because she's the contact person for getting locations and clients. Plus, we're real big into history. We believe that history is a key component to this, because you have to understand the history to understand the of what's occurring at any given location. And Carrie just muted herself, but Carrie, I'd like you to jump in and just talk about how important client relations and history is.
I'm actually probably gonna just drop out for now. But sorry, guys.
You're not doing good?
Go.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Carrie's not doing good. So we'll go back to us, and let me do this screen here, because that way we see Bob.
It means I can see Bob. I've got enough of them sitting next to us without having to see him on the screen.
So yeah, so the one of the emphasis we do, Dave, is history, because if you pick up evidence or paranormal activity and say it's a little girl or whatever it is, to understand the history of the location is critical to understanding what you're experiencing. So what's your views on all that, Dave, as far as Scotland and where your focus is for Pulse?
You know what? I mean, I think, Cordell, the thing that attracted me to Pulse, right, was that, and I suppose it gets back to the question, what do we think we're different to other groups? I think it is more data driven. Even though we are we are willing to try new things, except for spirit boxes and that. But I think it is more data driven, and that's what attracted me kind of to Pulse. From a UK perspective, I think Mark's busy watching there with Joan. I think we're kind of similar.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Joe.
We're similar across here in terms of we do want to do a thorough investigation. We do want to gather as much data as possible. We do have some group members who are probably more open-minded to some other tests and techniques and trigger objects and things like that, which but an investigation takes all, you have to tick all the boxes really, because I think no one knows really what this is, so no one could be wrong really, unless it's a spirit box. No, I'm just trolling. I think so. I think Pulse is slightly different to a number of other groups I've been in. I think we are. So, for example, during the Ghost Club, when we joined that was myself, Mark, and Joe, and we're kind of. Myself and Mark, I think we're classed as the technical team, and we used to kind of get rushed to set everything up, but it was more based up. And I don't want to diss the Ghost Club of London, doing some great things, but it kind of wasn't for us. I think the the focus was not so much on the technology aspects of it, which is what kind of attracts me to it, because if you can record it, then it's got to be something real, or something measurable. And if it's measurable, then if it's repeatable, then could it even be scientific? So for us, we do have a mix. We've got some great members. So we've got Bob. So Bob, he's the grandfather of the group. He kind of he's the wisdom. And the experience and that we kind of look up to all the time.
Well, Dave,
it's not true, but
I do have to say this: the one reason we have Bob in the group is because then there's somebody older than me. So
and he's the eye candy.
Well, that's true.
That's me. I'm the eye candy.
And Joe just put a note up there, which is absolutely right. I mean, how can you do an investigation with like 40 people in the same room? So I think our groups, we limited to around about 8-ish. That's probably enough. Depend upon the location. If it's got, if it's a stately home or a castle, you can get away with that. 4 groups of 2, because you should always really travel in pairs if you can, just to corroborate what someone sees and hears and feels, etc.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Yep.
I'd like to add to that. I mean, because one of the critical things is safety. You should always have people in pairs. Now, like when Bob would come and visit the States, would we send him into a dark basement by himself?
Yeah.
Sure, we would.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait. Now, granted, and I don't want abuse of the elderly or anything, but we'd have to tie him to a chair or something down in the basement to keep him down there. But we'd only do it for like 30 minutes, and we always kept an eye on him, so he was safe. But all joking aside, guys, but safety is critical. And Dave, you've spent most of your career in the mine industry. And what's the number one thing? Safety, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to make one point too on what you talked about. Most of our investigations, we have different people. We have a lot of people in our group, but it probably only averages about 4 people per investigation is probably the average, because not everybody can go, right? And people have family, and family comes first. But so yeah, once you get past 6, probably 7, depending how large the location is. If it's just one building, you start getting contamination, cross contamination and stuff. But go ahead, Dave, I'll let you.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, in the UK, we have got a very good team. I think we've hit on very lucky. We all work well together, because working together is obviously key. We've got Mark and Joe, and we've got Caroline from Glasgow. We've got Kay and Craig from Fort William.
Yeah.
Got Bob from Northumberland, myself from kind of Fort William itself. So we have got and we have got a kind of I think it's a mutual respect for each other, and I think that helps in the investigation. It helps really. We kind of just get to it rather than. I think it is just it seems like a natural team. We kind of know where we need to be, and we just get on with it. I think that's. I'm sure Joe and Mark, if you want to. I think that's the way I feel. It's a really good team across here. So I suppose that leads on to the next question then, Cordell, is if anybody wants to join Pulse, how do they go about it? This is just in general.
Yeah, and well, right now we do have an application online at paranormalpulse.com. It takes probably 6 minutes to fill out, 5 minutes with a few questions. And that's the most time consuming part of it is the questions. And the reason I wanted to bring it up, Dave, is because people look at, and there's like 10 questions. Some of them are just yes or no, or no issues. And they're just based on far as just the general concept of your feeling of the paranormal and stuff. And the critical key, David, you mentioned it. So what we do is we'll get an applicant, we'll contact them, we'll try to set up, we'll talk to them, just get a feel for who they are and their perspective. And then we'll set up an investigation that they can come to, because one of the critical things, and you just hit on it with your Paul 2K, is to create a team environment and a true team. People have to kind of gel, right? And have we declined people and stuff like that in the past? Yes, but it's not a personal thing. It's just that right now this person might not currently fit into our team, and it's that's the tough part, guys, when you got to tell somebody, well, sorry, maybe some other time. And that's hard, but it's really based on how well they fit with everybody.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be best friends with everybody on the team, but you at least have to be able to get along with people and work as a team. And if you're a very independent person and you don't like working with people, well, you're not going to be a good fit with Pulse. All right, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think we have, I know you have in the US, have had to kind of, after that training period, I've had to let some people kind of go, we'll say.
Yeah.
They just want a good fit, and all it takes is one bad apple, really. Yeah, and and it is tough. I think when I was there, you probably did let 2 or 3 go who just didn't jail right. Which is, I mean, and I think because you're open at the beginning, by listen, this is a kind of a probation period, because it is important to keep keep that team jailed, because you do go in some situations where you do need to trust your team. Yeah.
Yeah, and as I believe it's Joan Pussycats, trust is critical. When we send somebody down to tie Bob up in a basement, we have to trust that person will tie the knots
Probably.
good enough to keep Bob in the basement. But you're absolutely right, Dave. All joking aside, trust is important. And here's the other thing. I'd say about half the people that apply for Pulse, we'll take them on an investigation. We never see them again. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, which is probably the most common, is they're expecting like the TV show, that things are happening all the time, and they're going to get to do all kinds of things. Well, paranormal investigating, 90% of the time, is sitting in the dark looking at each other. And I'm simplifying and semi joking about that, but it's really kind of true, right? Is it's not like the TV shows. And we go on investigation, guys, where nothing happens for 8 straight hours,
Yeah.
and you're trying to do all kinds of things, but a lot of people will leave going, well, that isn't really for me. It's a little different than what I thought it was going to be. The other smaller percentage, Dave, and I don't know if you've had it happen in the UK, we literally have had an applicant more than once just freak out, run out of the building, to say, no, 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 this isn't, no, I can't do this, I can't do it, and literally just lose it, and we never see or hear from them again. Well, Bob, you're perfect. Thanks, Bob. Uh, but have you had any of those experiences, Dave? Have you ever investigated with somebody
You
that
know,
just hates it?
no. I mean, with previous groups, we did have with previous. Bob's trying to pick me nose with a mouse.
With a cursor.
Oh man, from previous groups, we have had some oddballs. I mean, that's probably a good way to put it. You know, we and I'll just probably leave it at that. And I don't know, Mark and John will know who I'm talking about with some of the crazies we used to go investigating with. But no, we've been very lucky. You know, the team is a great team. You know, it's. I think if any, you know, and I feel we're at the right size. You know, we have got some dedicated people who love investigating. We just haven't had the opportunity with COVID to investigate much. And I know Joan's really done a great job and kind of kicking off, kind of kick-starting that again. I mean, yesterday, myself and Bob went to check out some locations. We visited a local mausoleum, which we've investigated previously. We checked out the Isle of the Dead, or Alien Monday, just to kind of get a good. We're obviously going to visit there by canoe. We have to respect the kind of the McDonalds, the Camerons, and the Stewart clans. But there's different opportunities in Scotland. A lot of opportunities. I think what's happened. Yeah, I think what's happened with the UK. You know, I think the reality TV side of it has really thrown a kind of a curveball, we'll say, into the whole investigating in the UK. Yeah, I mean, that's right. We did have one investigator who was. He was from the press. He was from somewhere, and he was trying to make things happen to get a story on it.
I don't know.
Yeah, he was tampering. We were on a ship, which is a great investigation. We were on a ship. So we have had some crazies, really, to be honest, if you want to. But yeah, I think you know, we have been checking out some locations. But as I was saying, the UK. I mean, the UK charges. You know, a lot of them are charging now, especially post COVID. Well, it's not post COVID really, but post isolation. Trying to kind of to kickstart their own businesses back. So we are getting some opportunities we may not have gotten in the past. You know, stately homes and things like that. So I mean, I know we don't mind paying. You know, if it's like 40 quid a head or something like that. But it just means to make sure that once we are in there, we need to make the most of that investigation. You know, and I think that's why the technology piece is key, getting the right technology, getting it set up, because you don't have, you know, if people are charging 500 plus a session, then you want to make sure you maximize that. So yeah, so really in the UK, a lot of it, because of the reality TV shows, there's a number of groups across here. I'm not sure if it's like this in the States, but a number of groups across here now kind of rent the place out and charge per head. So they'll rent the place and they'll charge like say 30 quid a head, and there's groups of about 70 turn up, bring some food, and I mean, to me, it's more of a social event, and that kind of puts off. I'm not going to say the professional investigators, because I'm not sure if you can have professionalism in this field, you know, but the serious investigators, you know. Sorry, I think you can have professionalism. I'm not sure you can have expertise, I'll say. And we are,
Well,
I do feel, I'm not biased, I could be biased, but I feel as a group we are more professional than what I've seen in the past.
well, I think we strive for that. We strive for professionalism, etc. And I just wanted to comment, in the States, there's multiple types of locations. There's locations that it's all about making the money. You can call them, you pay $30, whatever, 20, 30, but it becomes more of a tour, because then you're lumped with other people, because it's all about making the money, and they have to maximize each night as far as the money they're bringing in. So it really becomes just a tour. You can't really investigate. Now, there is locations also that will charge you $100 a night or $20 a night, investigator, and you get the location, and it's just you and your team, and you can actually investigate. But 99% of all the locations we've ever done, we've never paid a dime for.
Yeah.
We don't pay in general. Now, there's certain locations, because they're kind of iconic. They might be an iconic location in a certain region or your state or wherever your city is, that you have no choice if you want to investigate it. And it usually is some really historical property. And yeah, we'll get the team together. If the team wants to do it, then yeah, we'll all pay and we'll go and investigate. But in general, Dave, in the US, 99% of the time we don't pay for anything. And I do want to say one thing to Bob. It's really great seeing you, all joking aside. But there appears to be, and sorry, we're getting a little bit of an echo, so just hang in there, guys. But what the chat really wants to know, guys, is when is Dave going to get a tattoo and get tattooed like you, Bob? That's what the chat really wants to know.
He couldn't handle the pain.
You know what? I don't ask him to show you where his other tattoos are. You know what? I think leading on to kind of.
Oh crap! We just lost Dave, and Bob dropped off. Hopefully they'll get back on, because this was really about Dave and Bob. So I'm gonna just keep talking. Hopefully they'll join us. I do want to say that we had an interesting investigation last night up in Wyoming. I'm kind of beat. Got to bed about 4 a.m. Yeah, so I'm a little hammered. And we had all kinds of things happen. We had, at one point, there was something that sounded like was thrown to the floor and dragged across the floor. Oh, here comes Dave. Maybe. Dave, you're coming on right now.
Cordell, it's this 56K modem up here. I'm telling you.
Well, the UK's been known to be 20, 30 years behind the US, but we know that. Anyway,
yeah, so sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, so I was going to ask the question, I think everybody's probably keen to hear how Bob actually got into this, because he, just from his aging visage, there's a lot of experience there, and I'm sure there's been a lot of paranormal experience. So if Bob, I promised him that he didn't want to talk, but I promised him that I would get him to talk, just for posterity and to be captured on YouTube forever.
So, Dave, are you saying that it wasn't actually because he was kicked out and banned from most bars, that he got bored, didn't have
Exactly.
nowhere to go, so he decided to do paranormal. Because that's what. Okay, Bob,
But
take
yeah,
it away.
I think it's a good, for to understand what kind of how Bob joined. Like,
Well, the only reason I joined was because you joined a long time ago. You were doing stuff like this a long time ago, and when I had experiences like paranormal experiences, which I wasn't sure what they were then, when I was younger, there was no groups around when that was happening. And then Dave started joining groups when he got to, I think it was 18, 19 or something, wasn't it?
when I first joined, I was 13 when I started, but that was just I was.
So you were passed that on to him?
I was experimenting in my bedroom, yeah. But
Yeah.
I was I was investigating at school. I was investigating like local areas, just kind of walking around at night with a tape recorder. But anyway, Bob, it's about you. So,
Well, like I said, there was no groups around when I was younger. I did have experiences, and
because I mean, it must have been what, the 30s?
no, the 40s.
Guys, wait a minute, Bob. I do have to say for the audience, anybody watch this, it's great to be on with you guys. It's fun joking around, and as you can tell, it's pretty transparent that we keep jabbing each other and making in little remarks and everything, but it's all in good humor, and it's because we love each other. And
No, you hear this. You hear this. Really.
Honestly, Coyle, I think when you're thrown in to fight the forces of darkness, as we all do,
Yes.
then at least you need to have some humor in it.
Yeah, you gotta laugh, and I'm a firm believer every day you need to laugh at least a few times, and if you can't laugh at yourself,
Then laugh at Bob.
So no, but Bob, go ahead. And guys, wait.
Back to me.
Wait, stop, Bob.
It's about me now. It's about me.
I know, and it's all about Bob. And actually, I think Dave has a bunch of childhood photos and stuff. We're gonna go through your whole life history here. No,
you better not give me any photos.
Oh, well, wait a minute. So here's the one question that here's the serious question I have, is that because Dave always contributes to you, Bob, the fact he does the paranormal. You're the one person. The first thing he'll say when you ask Dave, and when he was here in the U.S., members always would eventually ask him. The first thing he'd say is, "My uncle. It was Bob that got me interested in this," and he always talked about magazines, but they weren't the paranormal magazines. We won't go into those. That's for another show, and yeah. But I'd like you to talk about that, but because I think that's where the connection is. Also,
Magazines.
I'm also gonna go get a cup of coffee, so I'm gonna disappear for a minute. I need more coffee. I've only had like 3 hours of sleep, so.
Let's go for it, Bud, and Bob can tell the audience, tell the world. So Bob, so what kind of? I mean, obviously, when you were younger, what kind of things did you see or hear? Or, I mean, was it at home, or was it?
Well, it's just I used to hear voices, and when I was a bed, there one time something sat on my bed.
Right. Was it at home? Was it like?
It was when I was married, and it wasn't one of the kids or my wife, because she was beside us, and it was something sat on my bed, and from that day to this, I never saw it. I felt it, and the bed went down. Just things happened when I was a kid. I know
you used to work in a hospital, didn't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can remember when I used to walk around the old hospital at Ashington when I was a night porter, and looking around the old wards, and I could hear voices and I could hear noises, at the time I just thought it was from the other wards, like reverberating to it. Is that the word? But there's always been something in me life where I've either heard something and didn't know what it was, and and it's always been that case. I started reading books, paranormal books, ghost books, whatever, and you started reading them.
Yeah.
And like I said, there was no groups around when I was seeing and hearing things. I'm trying to think of some other cases that what happened. Anyway.
But I think the key thing was the books. So you started collecting books, you started reading books.
And there was no groups. There was no paranormal groups around. And you started, I think it was when you were 18 or 19. You were in the London Ghost Club, was it?
No, I was like 20. I was 25. I started a group in 8 when I was in.
When you were at school, you started 18. That group.
Yeah.
And I just used to laugh at you.
Thanks.
No, I didn't mean it was. I thought it was great. I didn't mean it was stupid. I just thought it was funny how you took so much of an interest in it. Where usually kids at school, they go into dark places like parks and things like that, trying to scare each other. They don't take it serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. It's I think it was these books yours, the Ghosts of the Lake Counties, which is one of the ones that really got us to want to investigate the paranormal.
Yeah, that was good.
I was only 13 when I read that, and that's when I started investigating your house.
I never knew you did that.
I used to stay at my grandmother's house, obviously, in Bob's bed because Bob was elsewhere gallivanting.
Chasing money.
And I used to investigate that because we used to hear the dog, a little terrier, used to be still running up and down the stairs and scratching the door, even though it had passed on.
I can remember talking about the dogs when we had a Labrador before that. We had to get him put on, and for months and months after that, we could hear him walking around upstairs on the oilcloth on the we had a carpet in the middle of the room, oilcloth around, and we could hear him walking around. And then he used to just flop down because he was an old dog. And before he died, he was very old, and he just used to flop down. And my mother used to say, that's just Shane flopping down, because I used to say what, because it was my room he used to do it in. But
when I was 16, I went to a vicarage, and I knocked on the door because I was like a hidden room.
Yeah.
And you could see the hidden room. You could see the window. That was a boarded up window. And I went there and I knocked on the door, and I had my little radio that he bought as a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, that's right.
And my mate was kind of somewhere else. I knocked on the door and I said, "Excuse me." I was 16, I said, "Excuse me, have you had any paranormal activity in your home?" And they just laughed in my face and closed the door. So that was my introduction to paranormal investigating. Oh, Cordell's back, right? We'll stop.
We stop talking about him now.
Hey, guys.
But hey, Cordell, okay, but so, and I mean, in terms of keeping that same theme, I know you kind of got into it a little bit in later life. I'm not saying later life as in, you started when you were 60, but you didn't, was it based upon kind of experiences you were having, or did you just decide, because Coda's an accomplished musician?
Oh yeah, so this year.
It's and I think you just decided to
change. You play the triangle, can't you? Professional triangle player.
No, Bob, it's the cowbells.
Is it? All right. I've got some mouth organs.
But I think
not like a cowboy. No, man.
We won't go there. No, so what happened to me? And like Dave was right. I actually had a recording studio in my basement and was doing some stuff semi-professionally, and yes, a musician playing in bands and stuff. And so I would work down in my basement in my recording studio every Friday, because I was off Fridays. I was working 410s. So I got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, and I'd be down there, nobody home, and weird stuff started happening, Dave. About 3:00 every day, I would hear, all of a sudden I started hearing footsteps, like somebody literally was running through the hallway upstairs. I'd go upstairs, nothing. This went on for quite a while, and so I started doing little experiments.
Right.
And so I go upstairs at 3, and nothing would happen. I'd go back downstairs and it'd be like 3:15. All of a sudden, running through, and I'd hear a door slam upstairs, go upstairs, nothing. And anyway, so what I did is, like, I'd close all the doors upstairs. I'd hear doors slamming, running, go upstairs. All the doors were still closed. Go back downstairs. I'd open all the doors and I'd hear doors slamming, running again. I'd go upstairs, but it would last from like 3 to 4, roughly, sometimes 3 to 3:30. And I started doing searches on the internet. This was back in the, I don't know, it was like 95, 96. And then started reading more about the paranormal. Now, and that's what got me into it was in the mid 90s, just because what was happening here at this house. And anyway, make a long story short, but I had experiences as kids, and what's interesting, what ties most paranormal investigators together is they all have a similar story, right? That, oh yeah, well, I had things happen to me when I was a kid that I remember, and it kind of evolves from there, right? And so did I. I mean, I had weird things happen when I was a kid. And here's the thing, guys. I bet you had other family members that you remember, might have been 40 years ago, 50 years ago. In Bob's case, 80 years ago, that he remembers. And that all had stories, right? And real quick, here's an example. I remember being like 5 years old. My grandmother, one of my grandmothers, died, and the family all came back to the house after the funeral, and she loved roses, and all of a sudden the whole house filled up with roses, the smell of roses, and there was no roses in the house. And I distinctly remember that story, and it was retold and retold throughout the family. And I think that's pretty common, that you hear these stories, right?
It
And
is, yeah. Sorry, but yeah, there's one story which my grandmother, which is obviously Bob's mom, she told me, which was quite terrifying, really. And it was she was going up the lane, kind of lived in a, what call them, like the Corrie Road.
There were rows and rows of houses.
Rows and rows of houses from the coal mining era, and all had kind of back gardens and all faced the street. You know, they kind of. And she was kind of walking to her friends, I think, or somewhere, and her mother stood at the gate and watched her go up the lane, right. And she shouted her back. And when my granny turned around, she said there was this black shadow flitting between the gates, kind of following her. And our mother shouted, says, "Come back, this is evil, come back."
I remember that. I remember,
yeah, and I thought,
saying that.
I thought that's pretty terrifying, really. Yeah. You know, like there was these kind of things happening back in the day, you know. And I think it was really my grandmother as well who really, with Bob's books, you know, kind of really got me into this and tried to question, because I wanted answers. I wanted to know what this was. All these stories about, you know, I mean, living in the UK, yes, there is a wealth of history. I'm not suggesting the US hasn't got that wealth of history, Cordell, but you know, I think in terms of it seems to be quite a common thing for a lot of people to believe in this, and or just kind of take it for granted. Yeah, it's haunted. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's probably haunted. You know. And I think we have been quite lucky because there is a rich history of kind of things happening in this country. It's not as intensive as the US, and we'll probably get onto that.
I do want to ask you one question, and this is for the audience. And I do want to mention to anybody in the chat, feel free to ask any questions. I know there's probably hundreds of pent up questions for Bob. People are wondering if they can ask him, but yeah, ask any question you want about the paranormal or anything. The U.S. has a long history, thousands and thousands of years, the Native Americans and stuff like that, But it's interesting. I do want to mention the fact that that most researchers don't research Native American in the paranormal in the U.S.
Hmm.
Um, and so here's my question to you two, relating, going back far enough. When you investigate a location, because say you go investigate a castle, civilizations over thousands of years tend to populate the same region, you know, because there's a variety of reasons, right? It's the soil, what they can grow, what is growing there, next to a river, next to an ocean, etc. That those are the common. So UK has this vast history going back to the, you know, and you have the Roman history in the UK and everything. How do you, is there any way you guys can separate the history you're actually getting? And so say you go do a castle, you get 20 EVPs, all these personal stories. Is there, how would you go through and dissect what part of the history are you actually getting? All right,
You know
I'm
what?
sorry it
Yeah.
took that long.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
understand the question. Yeah, it's very difficult, isn't it? It's unless in the EVP there's a reference, or you know, it could be in Latin or Italian or whatever. It might give you a clue, but I think it is very difficult to do that. You know, you don't know whether you're recording something from 50 years ago, 5 years ago, 500 years ago. You know, unless there's terminology, the dialect. You know, obviously, unless it's on video and you kind of see Roman soldiers walking through the, you know, like they did in Treasurer's house in York. I think it's a good question, Claire, and it's difficult. I mean, for example, when we investigated Castle up in Scotland, November 2019, with the team, we recorded a French person. I think it was Joan or Mark doing an EVP session, and everyone was introducing their names, and then this name bolted on the back of it, and it was in French. You know, so we did some research to try to identify when the French may have, because obviously France and Scotland were fairly close, you know, at different parts of our past, and we try to understand, did the French kind of, what could have been French mercenaries, could have been, trying to pick an era where that could have occurred. You know, so I suppose with a bit of history, a bit of homework, and probably some good guesswork, I suppose, or some rational thinking, you could probably pin something down to an era, unless it's specific and has names, dates, you know, which you never get. Surnames would help. We rarely ever, if ever, get surnames. So yeah, I'm not sure. I understand the question. I think I may have answered it. Probably, but difficult. I think very, and I mean, Mark, Joan, Bob, what do you think? I think it is very difficult to, when you get an EV.
Yeah, it is.
So here's an example.
Put a date on it.
Here's an example. You know, when we were in a well-known location in Utah. Oh, that's a dog doing something, and we recorded a voice of a woman saying, "I love you too, my papa." Right? I mean, I know you mentioned quite immediately, oh, well, that's a kind of a southern, you know, you kind of mentioned the dialect and the kind of therefore the time it could be. I mean, we did pick it up off an old stagecoach as well. We had the audio recorder on the stagecoach, you know, but I think that's the kind of similar thing. I think, yeah, and I mean, Jones just said, if you research the property and get the timescales, we do have a lot of documentation for the castles. We know who attended at what stage and things like that. But I think from the EVP itself, unless they're more specific, I think that is quite difficult unless there is a dialect, because you picked up immediately, you know, kind of that's a southern dialect or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and it's also like that EVP of the Curry laughing, and then
Yeah.
the woman saying, "I see you laughing," which there was a definite accent and dialect, and you immediately said that sounds Irish. Now the interesting thing, it's also the structure of the phrase she said, "I see you laughing." That doesn't necessarily mean she didn't visually see Curry
Yeah.
laughing. It could be a regional thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where,
Yeah.
it's like if you're in a bar and a group is laughing and a woman turns around and says, "I see you guys laughing," because she thinks you're
Yeah.
making fun of her or
Yeah.
laughing
Yeah.
at her or something. So I can see how, and that's the way you have to break things down, I guess, is the point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Carol, so here's a question then. We've been investigating now for, I think what you're saying, you've been investigating since 2009. So Paranormal Pulse has been formed for how long?
Well, we've been around 12 years, Paul.
12
I've
years.
been involved in the paranormal. I started in 95 or 96. So
Right.
25 years, whatever. But yeah, go ahead, Dave.
So as an organization then, and for the audience, where are we headed? Where do you think, as the director, this organization is headed? What are your kind of aspirations for this group and for this organization? Goals, objectives?
Well, the aspirations, ideally, when I started this, it was, and you mentioned it earlier, Dave, is that if something is measurable, if something is real, you capture these voices, you see apparitions, you see doors close. Those are things that are apparently, at least at the moment, seem to be real, right? So they're measurable. So and I was maybe a little naive when I got into the paranormal, because I've been in computers my whole life, 37 years in computers, and I've always considered myself somewhat logical in my thinking. I thought, well, we can solve this. We can figure out how this stuff is happening and what it is, and at least be able to say, well, yeah, this is the dead talking, or this is something else, but that's it. But now, when you ask me the question now, that's a tough thing to answer, because it becomes an addiction. I'm addicted to this, and it's not that I've lost sight of those goals, but I'm not sure if they're totally possible. And they
Yeah.
might. I think it's still possible to try to break down how an EVP is formed. The problem is actually proving it, right? If you could prove it, this would no longer be in the paranormal realm. It wouldn't, right? If aliens land and go to visit the Queen tomorrow, UFOs and aliens would no longer be in the realm of supernatural and paranormal, which they are now, because they haven't been proven. And and I've often thought, Dave, so here's a question to both of you. If tomorrow you went on and investigate and you had a big breakthrough and you could prove everything, what was occurring, how it's happening, who they are, all that, what would you do after that?
You know what? It depends, because
Yeah.
I love history, and whenever you get an EVP, I find it fascinating. I love reviewing data. I love you're listening, and that next EVP could be a phenomenal EVP, which could tell you something about the character, the time, the thoughts at the time. It's as if you're eavesdropping into the past, and and it's fascinating to me. You may be the only person in the whole world who's heard that since it was spoken, and to me, it's a kind of a privileged position. I do feel privileged to be able to review audio and hear kind of voices from past, present, or future, but yeah, for me, I'm fascinated. So I would probably still keep doing it. It's a bit like kind of being a living historian in terms of you capture voices from the past rather than reading about it, you know. Or I would just move on to Bigfoot.
Or UFOs.
Well, and I asked that question because as I have gotten older, not that much older, by the way, it's a real question you start asking when you've done this so for decades in some form or another. Well, if it went away tomorrow and everything was discovered, what would I do then? Because it is an addiction in a way, because I love it. Everything you just described, Dave, is why I do it. The history, the fact that could you actually be talking to the dead right now and they're talking to you? And if you really think about it, that's pretty profound, right?
Yeah.
That's like, if that's what's really occurring, that's amazing. That's something beyond it's yeah. And so but the goal, going back to the original question, guys, is that the goal still remains trying to figure out what's occurring, how it's occurring, and what it really is. And so let me ask both of you, starting with Bob. Bob, do you think, and you've heard some great EVPs, you've had experiences. I remember that time that we were all scared to go up to the third floor, and Bob jumped up and said, "Damn it, guys, I'm going up there. I might not come back. You might not see me again alive, but I'm going."
Yeah.
And Dave tried to hold you back.
You know.
Well, Dave was trying to hold you back, and you said, "No, damn it,
right.
I'm going." I remember that
That's right.
very well. So, what is your opinion of all this, and what is your, do you believe right now that you have experienced talking to or hearing the dead talk?
Why? Like I say, I've had loads of experiences, and I've had quite recently, in the last few years, I've had the experiences in the. I used to work for a daycare centre every other weekend, where we used to look after the elderly, and we used to take them out for a meal or whatever, you know. And we had a big hall where we used to look after them. And there was one time every morning when I was at work, we used to, all the carers and the supervisors would sit at the same table for about half an hour and would talk about what clients is coming in, what the possibilities, what ailments have got, if they could possibly like faint or whatever, you know. And there was one time I was sitting, and one of the lasses turned down. She says, "Can you hear that?" And we all turned down, and there was footsteps going up the hall. You couldn't see anything, but you could hear it, and we all followed the footsteps, watching it go up the hall. And then whatever it was, it sat in one of the seats were covered in plastic, and it sat in one of the seats. And we went over to the seat where it had been sitting, and there was a shape of the bottom on the seat. And it eventually went away, the shape, you know. And I've seen me go into the washrooms, the toilets, and I would hear my voice being shouted, and I would come out and say, "Has anybody shouted my name?" And they would say, No, it's all quiet. They're all asleep, or they're reading, or they're watching a film, you know. And that happened. That used to happen regular, that, you know. And it not only happened to me, it happened to other members of staff, you know. And there's other things that have happened, and I just can't. I don't know if I'm getting away from the question, but I just can't put my finger on it. There was another time when I was working at the hospital. I was doing a night shift, and went to get a patient out of a four-bedroom room, and we're taking them for an X-ray, and it was about 3 a.m, and it was in the summer. And we went to get the patient, and I looked over to the middle of the room, and there was a cloud, a white cloud. It was more like grey, And I wasn't tired or nothing like that. And I took my glasses off because I thought it was my glasses, and it was still there, but it wasn't swollen. It was just there, as if it was a picture. And I come out of the room and I say to the lad who was with us, I says, Jimmy, did you see that cloud? He says, I didn't see nothing. He says, what cloud? And I explained to him, and he says, no. He says, I've seen nothing. You know, and I think that often, and it was like looking at a picture, somebody taking a picture, and it was there. It wasn't moving. It was just there. And I just can't work out what that was, you know. And like I say, the voices, I just, back to the question, I just don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Well, great stories, by the way, Bob. And
Yeah.
a shout out to Andrew.
I've got a few. I'll try and remember them and write them down.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see Andrew's
Andrew, great to see you again, bud.
Yeah, good seeing you, Andrew. Dave, so do you believe that we've are talking to the dead and they're talking to us? Dead humans.
You know what? It's
God,
where my head is, I know I mentioned that kind of previously, is I think it's a time thing. All the encounters I've had, all the sightings I've had, and the kind of the experiences, you know, it just seems to fit well. You know, whether it's these kind of footsteps. I found these babies' footsteps in a bath. I put some talcum powder down there, and there was these little babies' footprints in there. There was someone kind of. So there was things have reacted to us, like making a lot of noise in the area, things like that. I honestly think I don't think they are dead when you see them. How's that? I think, you know, past, present, future, or whether it's dimensional, frequencies, whatever, somehow something comes together and you get a glimpse, and they could possibly glimpse you too. How does someone get a reputation of being haunted? You know, is it because they've actually seen you in their time? You know, when you've seen them. This farmhouse which I investigated, you know, it had a reputation of being haunted. But what's not to say that we didn't create that reputation, because we actually physically came face to face with an encounter there, and they came face to face with us. You know, but so that's probably a cop out, right? I think it's got to, you know, there may not be just one thing here, Cora. It could be a lot of different things we're encountering, right? But the majority of what I've seen does tend to link with a glitch or a times coming together. Now, what I can't explain is that, you know, when you get EVPs that are responding to you, you know, which does suggest that it's there, you know, quite frequently. And some of the encounters we've had where it may be more of a interaction as well. But the majority of things I've witnessed and seen, yeah, absolutely. I think it's, I think kind of, whether it's the past and present have come together or something, you know, maybe time isn't linear, maybe it's more concurrent, and therefore things come together. I'm not sure of that, but that's kind of where my head is at. It's changed. You know, I used to believe in the stone tape theory when I was, you know, starting off, that things could be recorded and replayed. And then it was, hang on a minute, these things are interacting with people now. So what could it be now? Could it actually be dead people? You know, when you die, could something live on and kind of interact? But, you know, do we have to try to shoehorn it into one thing? It could be a number of things happening now.
Yeah, I do want to make a couple comments. I think it would be a huge mistake to try to shoehorn any of this,
Yeah.
because if you do, that would also imply, in my opinion, that you understand a lot of this or components of it. And I've yet to see anybody that truly does understand it, and I'm including that myself in that. Now, I do want to mention Joan did Pussycats. I'm going to call her Pussycats here. Um, she brings up a good question, and I already posted it in the video, but she was wondering why some people experience things and others don't. And it's interesting. And I think she's relating to the story Bob told, because we see that all the time. We're two investigators together. Only one hears a disembodied voice. Only one sees this mist fly by. The other one might be looking in the general direction, never sees it.
Yeah.
Why does one person in a certain area seem to always experience something? Two other investigators go in that same area, never experience anything. And is it a emotional connection between the investigator and whatever's there? Could be. So I did want to just touch on that because that's a really good question, Pussycats. And she's got another several of these. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I agree with Mark and
Yes.
and there's definitely interaction. And I would answer that same question since I asked it to you. It's only fair that I answer it. I have a very short answer, and that is, here's my answer to, are we talking to the dead? Is it appears that there is some form of consciousness that we're interacting with that we don't understand. That's how I would answer it. There appears to be a genuine consciousness outside of our physical presence. And that's my answer, guys. Now I want to ask you guys, because England is famous. There's movies and books about all kinds of stuff, and I'm talking the paranormal. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions for the audience because I find it curious. Because and I want to ask some stuff that we really don't have here in the U.S. per se. There might be something similar, but it's called something different. So I'll just throw out one. What do you guys think of banshees? Real, not real? What do you guys even think about
Yeah.
that?
I think it's the UK has a lot of folklore, going from fairy folk of fear, banshees,
From
which
Irish
is more of an
folklore.
Irish law, from the kind of to signify the death of the Lord of the House or something like that.
It was whoever died, the banshee came to get the spirit, the soul. That was the story.
But I tell you what, mind, if we did hear something hideously scream in a house we lived in Scotland,
And it wasn't me.
and it wasn't.
Well, I was going to say, was it Bob, Dave? Was
It's
Bob
and
staying
I
over?
tell you what, mind, if that's what a banshee sounds, I could imagine that. It was absolutely blood curdling. It was actually from inside the house when we were inside the house. We couldn't identify the source. It just came quickly. It was absolutely horrible. If I could ever imagine a banshee's wail, then that would be one of them. But yeah, I mean, folklore. Is there a truth in folklore? I mean, is there an element of truth? I was listening to a podcast recently where they were saying, you do know the veil is breaking down, and all these myths, these werewolf, like dogmen, these the fairies. Why are people singing dwarfs and fairies and elves and all this kind of stuff? It's these kind of tulpas that can be created through a lot of people thinking about all these kind of things. I know that there is still a healthy respect for fairies and elves.
I blame Scottish whiskey, me.
Yeah.
I blame Scottish whiskey. That's responsible for all the hallucinations that I have. Hallucinations.
Bob
Go ahead,
has been drinking a lot of whiskey up here.
Well, read
Good.
Pussycats. comments there.
I've seen Andrew's comment there.
Actually, that
So I
that
think,
was a good one, Andrew.
I think Corel, it's like most of these things. Here's a story. Here's the thing, right? I was me and my girlfriend at the time was now my wife. Just to be clear, Keisha's watching.
And you love her?
And I love it. Yeah. We were in the car. We were driving up the Spine Road. It's called in England. And I had some rubbish in the back of the car, so I pulled into a lay-by because there was a bin, trash bin. We call them bins, and I went to get out the car, and there was something. You ever heard the tale of the big black dogs? They're called bar guests or whatever. Big black dogs, red eyes. Yeah. There was one of those in the in the trees, and it looked like and Bob laughs, right? So I'm like I'm bearing my soul here, and he's laughing at us, right? And I was and Lisa, she said, get in the car now, because obviously you do what your wife tells you. And I said, hang on a minute. I remember it was like, if you've ever seen the Ghostbusters, them big dogs, the terror dogs or whatever, it was about the bulk and size of one of them with big red eyes, and it was in this kind of clump of trees next to this lay-by. And the hairs on the back of your neck went up, and she was saying, drive, and I sort of jumped in the car, and honestly, we just got out of there. And she was absolutely petrified. I wasn't, of course. But she was fearless, but she was absolutely petrified. So what the hell was that? I mean, so could the veil be breaking down? I know a lot of people in the US are seeing these things called rakes and dogmen, and reputable witnesses seeing werewolves. What's all that about anyway? What's your thoughts, like, Cordell?
I don't think they're taking enough of their medication, or they need to get back on it.
Is that the cop out? Well, here's a question for you then. Is there a stigma attached to being a paranormal investigator? It's like, for example, if all of your work colleagues said, "Hey, Cordell, what's your hobby?" Is the first thing you volunteer? Oh, I'm a paranormal investigator.
I do now. Yeah, I have for years. I've told them. And yeah, I tell everybody I don't. Now, having said that, let me define it a little bit. I think 20 years ago, yeah, you would have been labeled a crackpot in most cases, right? Most circles. You wouldn't mention it at work, in general. But now we always, there's times we've bashed the TV shows, right? There's a good and bad aspect of all the TV shows, and the how much they've just saturated the airwaves. The good part is I think it's taken away some of the stigma, and most people now don't consider the paranormal to be just full of a bunch of crackpots. And I think that's due to the saturation of all these TV shows, because those that don't even believe in the paranormal and think it's ridiculous, they watch the shows. They find them entertaining. So that's the good part. The bad part is it's also kind of really hurt the paranormal, and in many ways, which we won't go into now, but maybe we'll do a whole show on TV shows and the good and bad. Well, wait a minute. Andrew just posted a long comment here. I'll let Dave and Bob read that, and they can respond to it here in a second.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? We are seeing things now. I told you I drive down to England every kind of Sunday night and come back up every Friday night, and the things you see on the roads in the middle of the night, in these lonely roads, it's like, it's like that's it's odd. There's some odd things, I'm not just saying a phantom hitchhiker, which I saw, but you see things which just are bizarre. we're seeing a lot more bizarre things. There's a lot more bizarre stories.
What? Wait a minute. Let me ask a question to you, Dave, on that, because Pussycats above Andrew's post made an interesting post
Yeah.
for Mark, and so are we seeing more? Okay, because a lot of people go, well, all this more. It's like UFOs, right? Anything in the paranormal, people are going, well, what's going on? Something's changing because more and more people are reporting. Well, is there because see, my view is more people are aware of it because of YouTube and Facebook and all, and everybody has a camera on them, their cell phone, right? And so is there really more stuff happening now, or is just more people are looking for it, more people are recording weird stuff that they can't explain, and so it just appears that there's more happening, but there really isn't more happening? It's always been this way?
You know what? Yeah, I mean that's a possibility. I think Joan asked the question earlier. You know, how can some people see things and some people can't? Well, we did some work on that, and I mean the only thing that we could come up with was from the likes of yourself, Corey, and Carrie, is that we've all suffered from sensory issues. We can't wear jewelry. We can't wear. We can't feel constricted. We can't. There's a lot of similarities in the way that we've kind of come through our childhoods and up. Does that mean if there's a sensory, does that change a perception, or I don't know. I think once it's a bit like an EVP. The first time you hear an EVP, then you hear more EVPs because you know if say someone has never heard an EVP before, you give them the headphones. They don't know what they're listening to, and it's quite difficult until you say, listen, it's at this point here and this point here. What's to say that once you what's to say that once you see something, or once your perception is a bit more aware, then could you see more things? I mean, you know, that's the kind of what I would think is why do a lot of people see a lot of things? You know, it gets to the point where, you know, people probably wouldn't believe you if you know. Go on, Bob.
Can I speak? Is it not because a lot of people don't want to believe it because they're frightened in case they get frightened, they get scared. There's people I work with when they first heard that I did paranormal investigations, they all took the mickey and like a spooky and all that, taking the mickey out of us. But when I got them by themselves, they turned around and they admitted that they were terrified. You know, that's because I says, you know, I don't believe in it, but there's something going on. I want to find out what it is. Why not come on an investigation with me? And said, oh no, I'm terrified, you know. And I think it's because a lot of people just don't want to. They're frightened. If they believe it, they'll get terrified, and you know what I mean. Maybe some nervous breakdowns, whatever. Well, there is some people that want to find out, like us, and are just stupid.
Yeah. Well, no,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
I'm forgetting what I was going to say. No, I've lost my thread.
Corel, you might have to put subtitles on the bottom because, like, when Bob speaks, he isn't as refined as me.
Well, aren't you supposed to be translating, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not sure what he said there, to be honest.
No, but you know what I mean. Some people want to know, and they tune into it, and the more they listen to it, the more they understand. Their brain understands it, so it automatically just clicks onto that, whatever they're seeing or whatever they're hearing. You know what I mean? It's like when you train for something. You train like I trained to be a textile mechanic. At first, I couldn't work out what was being shown. Then eventually, when my mind got to know it, and I did it more, I knew straight away whatever I was being shown. Do you understand?
I think it's like, Corel, you know, when you see an optical illusion, and once you see it from then, you know.
Well,
can we see more I mean, once you see something, do you keep, are you able to then recognize patterns?
Well, I do want to
Yeah.
comment. I want to comment on Bob's thing, and then I want to go to
I
Pussycat.
thought you couldn't understand us.
Well, well, Dave's been texting me on my phone to tell me what you're saying, so I feel like I got a good grasp right now. No, Bob, it's an interesting point. In all seriousness, because I've had people at work that, you know, they don't want to see anything that relates to the paranormal.
Yeah.
They don't, and I asked them,
They're actually seeing it, but they don't want to.
yeah, and I've
Well, they're
asked
not-
them, well,
Yeah.
why don't you? And it's a lot of times what it comes down to is their own belief system, their religion, for example. And because I say, well, don't you believe you're so and so as far as their religion? Don't you believe in spirits? And they go, oh yeah, I believe in them, but I don't want to communicate with them. I don't want to
Yeah.
talk to them. I don't want to see them.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
there's multiple layers. There's many reasons. You have the pure skeptic, which I used to be one, that didn't believe in any of this stuff. And it wasn't because I had fear of it. I just thought it was batshit crazy. I thought people that dabbled in this was just plain crazy. But I think religion also plays a big role in this, right? Because you carry your beliefs into this or out of it.
Actually, Cordell, I think you're right. I mean, some of the people we've investigated with were playing crazy. I'll give you that.
Well, yeah.
In the past, and Mark and John know kind of who I'm talking about.
I do, before it gets too late, because we're actually, God, it's hour 22 minutes, Dave, already. You know how the time flies.
I've got loads of questions
And-
for you, Cordell, which you've quite skillfully deflected. Yeah.
No, well, because I got to get this one other question, because this is the part about the UK I'm fascinated with, is for whatever reason, it's the concept of these evil monks you guys seem to have all over the place. There's almost every area you'll hear these stories of, oh well, that's the monk of, and what I find fascinating, they all seem to be dark and evil in some way, or they've attacked people, and I thought monks were supposed to be like the bearers of their religion and everything. Why are the concept of these monks, all the stories like the black monk of blah blah blah, and they seem to be evil? What do you have any reason for that? Because to me, guys, here's why I'm asking it. Because it's like, if you encountered here in the States like priests, ghosts of priests, what would cause them to be considered evil, other than maybe you're not religious? I guess that would be but do you have any rationale why, if a ghost of a monk it somehow attacks people? There's all these stories.
I think in the UK, it's more white ladies. We seem to have a white lady on every corner. I think, maybe it's to do with monks and being cowled, like the cowled in the darkness. And I mean, I haven't come across any monk-like figures ever. I'm not sure if you ever have, Bob, but I've never.
I've come across a white lady.
Right. We've seen a white lady, but we've seen half a white lady at Wyoming.
Well, the reason I ask that question, because it goes into the bigger question of the perception of why something is evil. And I always tell people that, if say a residence is, say Dave, your house is haunted, and you move into a house that's haunted, and say stuff is being thrown, whatever. Well, let's say that it's haunted by the past owner. If you were that past owner, and all of a sudden these strangers appear in your house and start tearing down a wall or doing this,
That's right.
I would be pissed. You would be pissed, right? If
Yeah.
you truly believe that was still your domain, So
Yeah.
and I guess the bigger point I'm trying to get at here is this whole concept of good and evil in the paranormal. I think it's way out of whack, and the TV shows reflect it. Where every other TV show, every other episode is demonic, and people are being attacked. Well, if they're truly dead humans, aren't they acting and reacting just as humans would? If you and a stranger invaded your space or what you perceived as your domicile, wouldn't you be pissed? Wouldn't you react and try to get them out of your what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot
I
of
agree with that.
yeah,
It's quite, you can easily agree with that. It's quite understandable, that.
yeah. I mean, quite a few, of this, in the UK, modernizations, refurbishments have led to activity. Um, it's just what Andrew's
Create a hole
yeah.
between dimensions.
Tell you what, probably wouldn't be far wrong. Like the
No.
amount of things that have been seen. But yeah, I
That's
think
it.
but then it's like most things. It's like, how come when people say there's an evil presence there, it's usually male. It's never if there's a female presence there, it's sad or sorrow.
Well, unless it's Andrew's ex-wife, then
True.
yeah.
She's got a heck of a
Go
voice on her.
ahead.
But yeah, so yeah, I've never come across any coward monks. There's plenty of time yet though.
Well, but what about the whole concept though? What I mean, because it's a pet peeve of mine, guys, about this good and evil and anything that throws an object or you know tries to pull somebody out of bed is a demon and is evil. This whole concept of if they're truly dead humans, they would act the same as we do. 99% of the time, I'm a sweetheart. I'm gentle. I like everybody. Can I get pissed off? Yes. Uh, no. And we're all that way, right? There in evil in the human realm, the Ted Bundys and the serial killers and that, it's still a very small percentage of the population, right? And if you ran into a Charles Manson who's dead as a spirit, he was a serial killer. He's psychotic. It doesn't make him a demon, right? This whole concept of a non-human entity drives me crazy. I've never encountered anything I could say, because Dave, if you encountered a non-human entity, how would you know?
Don't look at me.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
I think Andrew's post is
Yeah.
about his, yeah.
That was on my comment.
Anyway, I wanted to throw that out because we encounter that all the time in the TV shows and all the YouTube channels, the flyby 20-minute, I'm posting this and it's, oh crap, we just lost Dave, oh my heck, guys, you're stuck with me now. We'll give it a minute and see if Dave and Bob can get back on. But honestly, it drives me crazy because all these TV shows, it seems like they have to top what they did the week before and they have to top what they did last year. And it seems like it's just being saturated that everywhere they go, it's evil. I don't buy it. Oh, there's a host chat. Let's see. Oh, you're still there, Dave? I don't see you. Can you reboot and try to connect? Dave just sent a chat saying, I guess they can still hear me. Try to reconnect, stop it, and reconnect real quick. Anyway, I need to throw this out because it's driving me crazy. I've never encountered anything other than what appeared to be a human. Are they sometimes pissed off? Are they don't like me? and all that. Do we had stuff thrown at us and pushed and grabbed? Yes, but those are things humans do. They do it all the time. Why is that automatically evil? That's my kind of pet peeve. And I did want Dave to expand on that a little more, but I'm hoping they can try to reconnect. Dave is ready to join the broadcast, but I don't see you, Dave. I don't see you at all. This is really weird. Yeah, you're not showing up so I can join you on my side, but it said you were ready to join. Okay, technology has bit us in the butt again, it looks like, guys. Try one more time, Dave. I'd like you to try one more time. If not, it's an hour and a half into this anyway, but try one more time because I do want to talk to Bob just for one more minute since it's been so long since I've seen him. Okay, now you're showing up, Dave. There we go. 2, 1, voila. I don't know what happened. It's technology, guys. It's probably again, Dave, those 56K modems all of Britain is tied to. So anyway, no, but real quick, it just drives me crazy. It's my pet peeve. I don't think Carrie likes me talking about it too much because but it's all over YouTube. It's all, they all have to top each other. All these scripted shows, everything's evil. And it's all about the views, the ratings, the money. The more evil you can perceive to make something, the more people like get all, oh, did you see the demon that Ghost Adventures saw, and all this stuff. It just drives me crazy because I don't buy it. What's your guys' thoughts on that real quick?
It's absolutely crap.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of production companies, as you know, kind of putting pressure on. I mean, how many times have you gone to an investigation that's been jam-packed, from when you start to when you leave, things, activity. It's rare, you've got to have a lot of patience being an investigator. And I think it's just the pressure from production companies to fake things, and a lot of shows have fake things, will continue to fake things, just to get that,
just to get the people to watch.
And I mean,
pay for it.
And I've kind of said this a number of times, is that if you believed in orbs, right? These dust orbs are insects. If you believed in orbs, if you believed, you could have a really great investigation if you took a spirit box, because it would always come up with something that you could play on, a spirit box or an ovulus or or if you took a photograph and seen an orb and that was evidence. And I think they're just, it's making it very difficult for more serious investigators like us, I would have probably thought, if we could call ourselves that, to actually get locations, because of the stigma attached to this reality TV stuff, as well as actually, be treated seriously in this field or hobby. So I don't believe, Cordell, I don't agree. I mean, it's for example, we had a show called Most Haunted. Not sure I can mention it. Bob mentioned that though. Yeah. In the UK, where it was fake from start to finish.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Derek was on there, and he was spot on.
Yeah, well, Derek, yeah. And
wait a minute,
us there,
Well, Bob used to tell us that was your favorite person.
Yes, well, I know where Derek was coming from. It's quite easy to get possessed.
I think when he got possessed by the spirit of the orangutan, I think that was a world's first. an orangutan or a chimpanzee. But
I never saw that one. I'd like to.
Do you not? You should see it.
Well, Andrew did make the comment that he only watches the shows for entertainment
Yeah,
purposes.
That's exactly what it is. And it's difficult now when we ask for locations. The thing what pops into their mind is ghost adventures. You know, please don't bring any demons into this house. You know, and yeah, it's disappointing that the kind of the entertainment world has taken over the kind of what us we'll say serious investigators, even though we are kind of professional in what we in our outlook and what we want to achieve in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is disappointing. Locations are fewer and further between now.
Well, and I would like to add, Dave, that I think it's we're serious about this topic.
Yeah.
You know, and I know why you always add a little, you know, you hesitate when you say professional, and I always hesitate when I say scientific, because I'm not a scientist. I was never trained as a scientist, but I try to follow that the best I can. I try to follow the scientific principle, even though we don't fully, we try, and we try to be professional as possible, and I'd like to think we are, but we do take it seriously. That's 100% valid statement, and I believe in that totally, that I take this as serious as I can. And we're trying, right? And anyway, I think that's an interesting topic, and I think we're going to have more shows like this where we talk about these type of things. And go ahead, dude.
No, it is disappointing, Cordell. You know that people. You know, if I was just starting off, who have I got as role models? Bagans and people like that, Bob. But you know, like if you were just starting off, there isn't a lot to go on, is there? You'd end up with a spirit box or two, and some K2 meters and all these kind of gadgets, because the shows use them, and really it's little podcasts like this, little, we'll call them James, that are out there somewhere. You know, where I think that it would be great if you know, if anybody was entering this field or entering this hobby, this passion, whatever you want to call it, there just needs to be a bit more do some more research, do some due diligence for what they're getting into, because there are groups out there like us who are fairly serious in this and who could help people, rather than, it's just sad that a lot of groups start off with this kind of show, this TV show mindset, even the equipment that they use, you know, without really understanding how to use it.
Yeah. Elemental.
Yeah, the Earth Spirit. Oh,
Very good points, Dave. I do want to mention Andrew's comment, because elementals is an interesting concept that, and I could be wrong. I haven't looked up the history of the concept of an elemental, but it seems to be associated in the UK, or at least that it seems to have stemmed from the UK in some fashion. Anything you want to say about the concept of elementals?
never come across that in terms of any of the investigations. I did investigate a cryptid years ago, which ironically looked like a Wendigo from Native American folklore, which is bizarre in the UK, you know. But no, I mean, you know what? There is so much we just don't know.
Exactly.
You know, there is so much we don't know. There is, you know, we can kind of, the discussions we have are great because we bounce ideas off each other. This is what we used to do when I was in the US. We just used to talk all the time on different things, on investigations. That's just so much more to learn. and so much more to find out. So with respect, whether it's banshees, elementals, fear, hopefully Dogman, because I love that concept of, having a werewolf running around who's been seen in the UK multiple times. Yeah, I think that's we just don't know. We just don't know.
Hey, Bob, you need to talk to your nephew, I think. But no, I do want to mention thank you, Pussycats Joan.
Yeah,
I
thanks,
really
Joe.
appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
We feel I want to, and not to get
Nice compliment.
all smushy or anything. One of the best moments of my life was meeting Dave. He's a good friend, and well, no, wait a minute, Bob, you didn't let me finish.
Sorry.
It was
Sorry.
the cosmic whatever happened with me and Dave meeting was for one purpose. That was for me to meet you. So there you go.
Yeah, I agree there.
But no, it really is. I mean, it's interesting why people meet each other and how people are drawn. And I know Carrie feels the same way, Dave. But all the people in the UK on Dave's team that I've met or talked to, which is very limited, they're all great people. Wonderful. We'd be friends regardless of the situation. And I know that me and Dave, even if neither one of us was in the paranormal, we'd still been friends. So, yeah. But since this is getting late, we're going to have to break this off. But we'll have to have another show, Dave, on this concept of all these different hauntings. And the other thing I wanted to mention with what you just said, Dave, was I think that one of the keys to being a good paranormal investigator is that you have, when you go into a location, that you have not already made up your mind or decided. And that goes to even what you're experiencing. If you go into a location and you get hit by a rock or something pushes you, and you immediately go, that's a demon. That's where I think everybody messes up, or where you can't do that. You got to be open-minded. You have to evaluate. You have to be willing to
That's cool, don't No.
what?
Sorry, sorry. It's okay.
Well, no, it's okay, Bob.
No, just Dave says the
Go ahead,
talk. No,
I
Dave
wasn't
said the
talking
talk.
about any. I wasn't saying anything
Let's have a
important.
conversation while Claudia's talking. Why don't you?
Sorry, he says to me, it's hot. I says, oh, it's cool. Sorry,
I'm
I
joking,
didn't know I
Bob.
said it out loud.
Hey, Bob, get back there. Get the hell back there. Jeez.
Sorry,
Okay.
I just-
Anyway, we do have to wrap it up. We're like 15 minutes over our normal schedule. But first, I want to thank everybody in the chat. I'm going to let Bob and Dave have the last word. And Bob, all joking aside, it is so good to see you. So good to hear your voice.
Good to
I
see
know
you.
everybody. Oh, wow.
This is Misty.
Hi, Misty. Yeah. But no, it's really good to see you, and it's good to see you're doing well and you're healthy and safe. We all miss you out here. Some of our funnest times that we had is when you came out here for your vacation. We took you, and other than you running out of the building screaming like a banshee, it was so much fun, and you did a great job. All
I'm pleased
joking
to see a
aside.
banshee and not a little girl. A banshee and not screaming like a little girl.
Anyway, wait a minute. Let me Andrew. But I'm going to let Dave and Bob address the chat and have the last word on this. But if you so here's my little spill for our YouTube channel, our really teeny itty bitty YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber, yeah, please subscribe or at least hit the like button, or both if you feel frisky, a little daring. But we really appreciate it, and thank you so much to the people watching this, because you don't have to. This is your time, and we appreciate it, because we'd be doing this regardless. But you guys make it, and I want to thank especially Pussycats, I just like saying pussycats. It's just a fun word to say. And Andrew, for putting your thoughts and questions in the chat. That's what makes this great, and really, really appreciate it. So I'm going to say goodbye. And again, Bob, great seeing you. You're looking good, honestly. Just stay safe, okay, bud? I really appreciate it. Dave, give him a kiss for me when this is over.
COVID. I can't.
No, he's a bad kisser.
Oh, I've heard that, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna let you guys say goodnight and everything. Oh, let me see.
Yeah, do you want to say goodnight, Bob, and then I'll kind of
Yeah,
finish
good
up
night.
Yeah, hey, yeah, Andrew, great seeing you both. Okay, great to catch up with you. We are hoping to get across at some stage when all this craziness was over. It'd be great to catch up again, mate. And Joe and Mark, obviously as members of the UK team, just it was great to catch back up with Mark and Joe when I came back. Just very like-minded people, and I think they both kind of made the Ghost Club of London, we'll say, tolerable because they were like-minded. So no, it's a great team we've got over here as well. Great team for Pulse globally. And I think if there is anything out there, if there are any answers, there shouldn't be any reason why this team can't find it.
I agree totally, guys, and it was so much fun this conversation, and we'll have to do this again. And as you could see, we could talk for the next 12 hours, right, on all this, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah.
But I wish you the best. You guys look like everything's going good. Again, tell Katie happy birthday, Dave.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Give a hug to Lisa and Joan and Mark. Sometime we can have you on here if you guys want.
Yeah, it'd be great to have them on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And same with Andrew or any of the US. We've had members on here get into a really good conversation. And at some point too, if you guys want to see and hear more EVPs or video, we'll play those also. Because I don't want to be locked into any one thing on this channel when we do these live broadcasts. And today, honestly, we threw this to Dave's court and said, Dave, what do you want to talk about? And he threw some stuff back. But as you see, it branched off, and it's what makes it a good conversation, right? So I'm going to say goodnight. I promised I would do it first. Then I'm going to let Bob again. Great seeing you, Dave. Great seeing you.
Great seeing you, Cordell.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, bud. Thanks, everybody.